What's up, guys? Can you guys hear me? What y'all working on in drums right now, man? Let's talk about it. Yeah, jazz comping. Cool, man. We could always work more on jazz comping for sure. I mean, when it comes to hand speed, is this metal? Metal jazz. I mean, that's basically what Tommy Lee was doing in Hot for Teacher. It was kind of metal jazz at the end of the day, you know? But no, going back to jazz comping. A lot of that is mostly about how you have your fulcrum, right? Obviously, no one would practice jazz on an electric kit. That's kind of a silly thing to do because it involves a lot of touch. There's a lot of touch in jazz and dynamic control and ways you approach the voicing of the drum, and it's way more of a you got to really think about articulation and all that good stuff. But like you were saying, hand speed in jazz, a lot of that has to do with how well can you play threes, right? Oh man, molar technique is so hard to teach, but at the end of the day, you have to think of it as a wave, right? So like, it comes from this. Really, it starts with an upward motion, and your stick is down, and then you accent, and then that next upward motion where your stick is down, you get another note out of it. So when you're playing molar, technically, even though there's different types of molar, the molar 2, the most common molar for drum set players, you do it starting out with an accented stroke, which really gives you what people like to call an upstroke, if you will. Whatever. Accent down, accent up, accent up, accent up. But the number one thing that starts to happen when students practice that is they instantly go to this, like they're trying to. The main thing I tell students is try to make it as natural a motion as you possibly can, Don't try to exaggerate it too much. Try to allow it to just be as relaxed and natural as you possibly can make it. Because as you get better and better at it, it's going to condense anyways. You're not going to be playing it super huge. You're going to be condensing it because that's how you make molar faster. That's how you make anything faster is you condense it. That's why single strokes, when they're really fast, are usually really low because of efficiency. Really fast things don't have to be high stick heights. And speed and stick height is very important. That's a very close relationship. Just like dynamic and stick height is also a very important relationship. But accent tap, that's what we normally say, but it goes deeper than that, It's more of like a flick up, There's so many different ways to think about it, you know? The other tricky thing about molar is you can technically do it without accenting. You know? I mean, you're always going to have a little bit of motion when you play molar. That's one of the whole reasons of using molar is you want motion. But you don't actually have to have that hard of an accent when you play molar. When you pick up, you lose speed. You lose the technique. One thing that's tricky with me and molar personally is I just played a lot of punk music growing up. So believe it or not, I started using molar just naturally, and I didn't even know I was using molar, okay? I mean, I took drum lessons, but it was a long time until someone actually told me what that even was, like classified as something. Meaning your hand will ultimately naturally have to start doing that. Because the thing is, speed and technique go hand in hand, okay? And so when you're playing slower, that's why molar is only a conversation in certain stylistic styles with certain tempos in regard, right? If I'm playing slower, I'll never even think about molar because I don't need molar when I'm playing slower. That's why in technique, slower playing has everything to do with rebound. Only downstrokes. And that's why when we first start drummers off, we always talk about rebound and downstrokes. Because at the end of the day, even if I start playing faster, like right here, that's more of like a dribbling motion because I'm going down over and over again, but the stick is rebounding every single time, like your ex-girlfriend. All right. Then the faster I get, the more the stick height starts to condense, more and more. Now here, depending on what type of texture of sound I want, is where molar kind of lives. It's where it's born. This kind of thing right here. And then molar, as we already know, can take us way faster than that. It's one of the main techniques that's used for speed. But not always. It depends on what kind of sound you're looking for. Sometimes you do just have to learn how to use more fingers. That's why you see a lot of drum and bass cats using fingers and metal. Drum and bass cats and metal cats use fingers because they're looking for more of a solid articulation with every stroke. A standard, consistent. While molar is way more of a bouncy, shuffly. It's got some wave to it. It's got some motion to it. That's why when a drummer's playing, especially a pro drummer, they're going to think about all that kind of stuff, even without meaning to, okay? Because you had to. I mean, when I want a molar style technique, I'm doing that for a reason because I'm looking for a specific sound. What's up, Big T? I've been trying to do a lot of cats nowadays are doing this thing. I'm trying to get better at that. It's hard to keep that as a simple pattern, though. I mean, this guy asks, is there any good exercises for developing fingers? The age-old one, right? I mean, to be honest, everyone has their preferences. Like me, no, I'm not really dead Sharon. Me, I don't really use fingers that often. I like molar more. I just do. And so, it's one of those things, man. But molar only has there's only so far you can take molar. I mean, that's why people start using fingers when they're playing like insanely, really fast. But the oldest trick in the book when you're talking about fingers is you practice one finger at a time, right? So you got your middle finger, then you do, your pointer, ring finger, and you do your pinky. Like I said, I don't really practice that kind of stuff. Honestly, I don't really like any of that kind of stuff, to be honest with you. Like, even there's a dude on here that constantly says to practice this kind of stuff. Here's my thing on that, dude. If you're telling people to practice this way, they're not getting any rebound out of that at all. So all you're really telling people to do is practice with your wrist. And there's some value to that. It's like the whole pillow discussion, right? Yeah, if you practice on a pillow, you're going to get better wrist. But that's it. You're not going to get any rebound control practice in there at all. So when we're practicing, we always need to think about what is the ultimate goal and what am I trying to get out of it ultimately? Because, you know, if you're trying to get better at rebound, then a pillow is not going to help you one bit, okay? I mean, that's what a pad is for. A pad accentuates your rebound so that when you get on a kit, you have less rebound. It's also what electric kit does as well, but a real kit's not going to give you as much rebound as a pad, and that's good. That's a good thing. That shows that the pad is used as a training tool. What's the best thing for you to practice as a marching snare drummer who knows all rudiments but has trouble moving around the kit? Unless it's a really hard pillow. That's funny. Yeah, like a rubber pillow or something. A pillow that bounces. I've never seen a pillow that bounces before. But y'all know what I mean. I mean, I'm trying to debunk some of these drumming myths that are out there, all right? Don't be around doing this looking like a goofball, okay? In my opinion. And don't be playing on no pillow. I mean, I've practiced on a pillow before, too. It's a fun challenge. At the end of the day, practicing to a pillow should be sort of this niche thing you do for the fun of it. Don't really feel like you're going to gain that much out of it because drumming is not just about wrist, man. Yeah, developing your wrist is important for sure. It is. Especially with doubles. You got to learn how to play a double almost like it's just one motion. That's why we practice things in marching like double beat exercise. Those type of exercises are really good for training your hand how to think of a double almost like a single, like it's just one motion. That's also the secret to how you get better at doubles on bass. You have to think of it as almost one motion. Forget the slide thing. Yes, the slide thing has its value, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about get it to where your muscle memory just thinks of a double as one motion. Is it one motion? No, but I'm talking about the mindset behind how you train your body and your muscles to do certain things. So if I go down and then up a little bit, I'm going to create a double, right? And that is essentially the slide thing. But you get it to a certain point to where it's just a motion. Goat, thanks so much. Just like doubles. Doubles just become a motion. Hey, if any of you guys are enjoying this instruction right now, this is what I do for a living, man. All right? So hit me up. Let's get some lessons going. Let's do this thing. To the guy's question about you're a marching snare drummer, but you want to learn how to move around on the kit more. You know, I see this a lot, and you do see this a lot. But the number one thing you have to realize about being a percussionist is it's one of the hardest gigs there is because you have to learn to think. And we call it percussion, but it's actually many different dialects of the same language, right? That all of that language is Basque in rhythm, but it's not all the same thing, man, okay? Mallets requires completely different skills than drums do. And snare drumming and corpse drumming requires completely different skills than concert snare does. Concert snare and marching snare require completely different skills than drum set does. So as a marching snare drummer, the first thing you have to tell yourself is, I'm not marching on a marching band right now, all right? Now, there is certain marching snare things that do correlate to drum set. Like if you're playing these kind of grooves. So start where you're feeling related, where you're mostly related to drum set in the first place, which is this kind of stuff. The stuff that you do on the football field. This right here. And put a hi-hat in there with your foot. This is a place you can start if you want to. It's more familiar, right? But then you got to learn how to operate that bass foot. You know? This is also a way for drum set players to learn how to play with more accents in the first place. Is just start practicing stuff like this. But your question was ultimately about how do you move around more. brother. You practice moving around. You know what I mean? Now, ultimately, there's 3 different styles in which drum set players use moving around. And I've been writing a book about this for a long time, and I've never published it because it's just so much to try to write. It's a large task to try to put all this in one book. But you have a traditional style way of playing where you're mostly using singles and you're moving around kind of evenly, right? So that should be the first place you start. Just learning how to move around in groups of 4s, groups of 2s, groups of 3s, groups of 6, groups of 8, you name it, okay? Just learning how to move around and then combining those groups, right? 2s and 4s. Sometimes I'm playing 2s, sometimes I'm playing 4s. Here's something drum set players don't do enough. They don't just practicing just moving around, man. Drum set doesn't have to always be just a groove or fill constantly. You can spend some time on your drums just getting to know them a little bit. Just get to know them, brother. You know, you don't go up to your girlfriend and say, let's go, you know. You say, how was your day? You know what I'm saying? Hopefully, you know. Well, you got to get to know the drum set a little bit, man. Now, with that being said, this is only one style of moving around, and that's even, okay? Even groups. The second style is the one that everyone does nowadays, linear. Linear is when you start adding the bass drum into that. So how do you start adding the bass drum into that? Lots and lots of practice, man. Lots and lots of practice. Lots and lots of linear practice. That's how. Hand, hand, foot. Hand, 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 foot. Hand, 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 foot. At the end of the day, drumming is all about groups and combining groups. That wasn't a good example. Hand, hand, foot, foot. Flam, bass. Flam, flam, bass. Flam, flam, bass, bass. Hand, 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 foot, foot. That's all linear, okay? And you don't start out there, you start out here. Linear is very boring at first, man. You got to get to know your kit, man. What does your linear sound like? But see, a lot of people want to start there. That's the problem. It's not a good idea to start with linear. It's a good idea to start with just learning how to move around, man. This doesn't have to be a fill, though. That's the thing. A fill has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? Right? This doesn't have to be a fill. It's just learning how to move around, man. Okay? You can't play without practicing. Think of it that way, okay? Maybe after many, many years of just playing and never practicing, sure. But that's besides the point, okay? You got to practice specific concepts if you want to get better at specific concepts. Like this is groups of 3s, moving around. That's a very specific concept. Now if I put that in stage 2 and go hand, 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 foot, now that's still groups of 3s, but now I'm adding a kick. So it's completely different, actually. Because you can't really feel it or play it the same way because it's not triplets anymore. With that being said, there's a third style, and that's more accent dominated, where I'm starting to use more. In other words, as a marching snare drummer, you're going to feel most familiar with moving accents and taps around the drums. You just will, because that's more rudimental. What do rudiments do? They teach you control and stick control over your taps, your accents, your heights, your flams. All of these things that drum set players aren't known for being the most amazing at. Well, you still have to translate that into a drum set context, man. Like a fill like that, you know? At the end of the day, what you want is you want something that has linear, but accents in it as well. That's what I do. That's what I do anyways. I just gave you the secret sauce of how I play. Randomly wishing people a nice day. But you do appreciate my advice. Well, tell me what you are practicing. And you don't necessarily need to master singles before moving on. It's about, it's about getting comfortable with all the rudiments. Everything in music, guys, has to do with comfort. How comfortable can I get with a specific concept, right? And so at first, when you're talking about rudiments, we're talking about singles, doubles, and paradiddles. And eventually, obviously, you learn that there's different types of paradiddles, Single paradiddle, double paradiddle, paradiddle diddle, And then you learn how to move that around. And then if I add linear to that, now I'm really cooking. But that doesn't always sound amazing. It depends on what context you put it in. But that's what you guys see me doing. If you want chops, not that I'm the most chops guy in the world or anything, but I got my share of chops. How do I have my share of chops? Rudiment practice and linear practice. Straight up. If you want chops, you have to practice rudiments and you have to practice linear. That's it. That's the answer. That's how you get chops. Practice rudiments and practice linear. But see, that's not as simple as just saying that. It's years and years of learning what rudimental technique is, because rudimental technique is not the same thing as drum set technique. It's really not. Rudimental technique is rudimental technique, man. It's what snare drummers learn. Like Marching Dude was just saying. But that's why as a drum set player, you have to come from all of these worlds. You have to understand, in a marching context, this makes sense. In a drum set context, this makes sense. It's about learning how to speak these different dialects. When you're in this place, you speak to these people this way. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about different musical situations. And being able to, like water, how well can I fit in these different musical situations? A good example of that is everything we've talked about so far. Like in jazz, this is a specific musical situation, right? Well, this is a completely different musical situation. This is more country, right? And this is more metal or whatever, And then this is more funk. The type of double pedal I have is an Iron Cobra, the 600 series. Thanks for the follow, Summit. You're a chronic alcoholic guitarist. Sorry, that's kind of funny. I want to jam, but others don't tolerate me. Is that a joke, man? That sounds like a joke. If that's not a joke, then you already know what all's wrong with that, all right? That's funny. I mean, do you want my advice for real? I mean, you have to think about it from the other person's point of view, okay? I mean, the thing about being a musician is there's different stages of being a musician, right? Your first stage of being a musician is, you'll play with anybody, right? Let's be real. I mean, when I first started playing, I would go to my neighbor's house, any of them. I would play with anybody, anywhere, at any time, all right? And that's how it is when you first start out. And it's good. You're learning a lot by doing that. Nowadays, I won't play with you unless I know who the heck you are, okay? That's not like I'm not being a dick by saying that. It just is what it is, man. Your time becomes a lot more valuable as the better you get as a musician, all right? And so, if you're showing your other players that you're always drunk and what else did you say? I mean, drunk is one thing, but, you got to be nice to be around, right? What I'm getting at is it has nothing to do with necessarily you being drunk. There's a lot of musicians that are alcoholics. It has to do with what value can you provide, right? I'm just being real with you. And maybe that's offensive. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. It's all about what value can I provide the musicians who I'm saying, will you come and hang out with me and play music? A lot of times when people get offended when other musicians don't want to play with them, it's because they haven't offered enough information or offered enough value up front, right? It also depends on what value of players you're trying to get, right? What value of player are you trying to play with? If you're trying to play with someone who's semi-pro, right, then you're gonna have to have a lot to back that up because their time is more valuable than someone who has been playing for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, okay? So, it's like dating, man. You gotta play with the cats that are on your level. You feel me? I mean, look at me. I'm not gonna be dating a supermodel. Self-awareness. You feel me? I mean, whatever. It is what it is. It's all good, brother. Oh, I'm glad I was able to help, man. I mean, if you want I could tell you from my perspective what I look for whenever anyone wants me to play or jam. Nowadays, I have a wife and 2 little kids, and so my time is I basically have no time at the end of the day. That's why I don't play many gigs these days. That's why I do a lot more TikTok than anything. I do play every Sunday, but that's my normal regular gig. That's what musicians want, to be honest with you. They want like what anyone else wants. They want a regular paid gig that can be reliable. I mean, that's what we want, right? Why wouldn't we want that? You want what I have? Oh, Lord, man. I mean, I started when I was 14, and I went to college for 7 years. So, I mean, I was lucky because my dad and my mom supported my music, and they always have. I will say that 100%. I would not have anything that I had today without my mom and dad, straight up. But I also put in a ton of work, man. You know what I'm saying? But I loved it. I loved every bit of it. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm some super fancy professional or anything. I'm not playing stages or arenas or anything. I probably could go that route, but I have a family. You know what I'm saying? I could have auditioned for that kind of thing back when I was in my 20s, but that's another story for another day. My buddy has electric instead of acoustic. Will that change anything when we start making songs? It won't sound as real, right? And so when you're recording an acoustic drum set, it's much more difficult, but you can get a much more natural, realistic sound right up front, even with 1 or 2 mics, Yeah, musicians and comedians. Yeah, dude, you can't. I'm not going to say you can't. I mean, look at Dave Grohl, though. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, it's just, Oh, God, plugins. I mean, yeah, you're talking to the wrong guy when it comes to that, okay? I'm a purist. I don't like recording MIDI plugins. I mean, heck, a guy sent me a track last night to record to. He could have just easily put a MIDI track in there, but it wouldn't have had a much groove is what I'm about to put on it. You know what I'm saying? What's a beginner to intermediate Latin groove besides bossa or samba? I mean, the main one that comes to my mind, because everyone learns the bossa, right? And everyone learns the samba, Is another one that's a lot of fun. It's probably the most fun. Is Songo. Songo is really hard to pull off, though. I'm still learning how to do Songo, technically, Songo goes something like this. You go cymbal, snare. Well, I'll just play it. I'm not going to say it. You just practice that over and over again because eventually that turns into like a... Yeah, it is very similar to jazz. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Let's see. Let me try again. But way faster than that. Yeah, I'm not very Latin-y. I'm not very good at Latin. I'm way better at like the I can pull that one off pretty well. Is that literally a girl putting her phone number in the chat? That's hilarious. I appreciate it. I'm married, though. They're definitely not getting any cheaper these days. Hey, thanks for the follow. I lost it. That's a cool little pattern right there. Nice, man. Guitar riff flowing. Sick. Something like that, man. Yeah, it's like. Uh, that's kind of the main groove in the very beginning. I know the very beginning part of it. What's up, Cat? Thanks for the follow. Look, what drum questions y'all got for me, man? You learn how to use the hi hat. Sorry, not trying to sound like a dick. What I mean by that is when you want it to just be closed, you just do your foot like that, right? So like you just practice playing different stuff while the hi-hat is doing like eighth notes, right? But then when you want more of a washy sound, we call it a splash, right? You use the heel of your foot, and you hit it with the heel of your foot. The bottom part of the heel of your foot. So it's just learning how to control those two sounds, because there's something called a heel-toe splash in drumming, where you play your heel and then you play your toe. And so you kind of do this heel, toe, and you get this sound. And it works really well in drum solos because it's that eighth in the background, but it's interesting, you know? So it's like, especially if you do it on the ands, right? So like, 1 and 2 and 2, and just practice moving around. I messed up. I gotta get back into it. Nice, man. I love me some DBZ. Yeah, heel toe is fun, man. I started slowing down. Stupid pedals moving. But yeah, stuff like that. Whatever. But that's something fun to practice, you know? I like that kind of stuff. It's fun. It's a fun. Any kind of ostinato like that's fun, you know? Like the good old tickets. That's one thing you can always do as a drummer is take what we call an ostinato, which is essentially just an interesting rhythmic pattern that happens over and over again in the background, okay? Take an ostinato and then you just play stuff over it. Like I like to call this open hi-hat threes. It could be like a groove, or it could just be some nonsense, you know? Y'all always see me challenging myself. That's me challenging myself, you know? Good way to practice singles right there. It's Roland. 16 triplets. Thanks, man. No, I don't know it, no. That's always a good thing to practice. How you guys doing today? Here for Cindy, right? No. Oh, my bad. I know you. I'm sorry. I saw a kid and didn't recognize him. Yeah, y'all are 3:30, aren't you? I just gotta look at the schedule. Sorry. Y'all are 3:30, right? Yeah. Sorry, I lose track of time when I'm messing around, practicing and stuff. That's a sick lick right there. What's up, Dustin? How you doing, man? Dude, I was one of your first inspirations to be a drummer. That's awesome, man. What are you doing with it nowadays? That guy's most of it here, so I need to get off here. Thanks for hanging out, though. Nice and warmed up. It's always nice to be warmed up. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for all the questions and stuff. Hope y'all had a fun little drum lesson here with me. I'm going to continue to keep doing these. So continue to keep hanging out and asking me questions. And we'll have fun. Y'all have a good one.